Welcome back to Grassroots Radio. This is Kris Cook, and I am joined in studio by Cori and Andy Pate. Did I get that correct? Okay, I mispronounced it before. And they are the co-founders of something called The Party of Choice. And I was introduced to Cori very briefly in a discussion on Facebook where we were talking about the same issue that I was talking about earlier. How do we pull together on the right and try to find some way of all of us running at least in the same general direction? So welcome to the studio, Cori and Andy. Cori, can you give me some background on the Party of Choice and tell me why you started this, how long ago?
Sure. We got involved with the political spectrum back in 2008, and it was because we were frustrated with what we were seeing going on. And so, we just found a way to get ourselves involved, and the Party of Choice actually came along about a year and a half later. So if you are a conservative, you are already in the Party of Choice, because conservatives want to give people more choices, more freedoms, whereas liberals want to take choices away from people and control their lives.
And that was the concept. You told me that, and my jaw just sort of dropped because I'd never thought of it that way before. But you're absolutely right. I mean, they're the ones who say that they're pro-choice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's only in this one little tiny little area, and then every single other thing has to do with restricting your choices.
Right. They only allow you to choose the choices they've already approved.
Okay. So, Andy, you come to this with a really interesting background. Would you share that as far as where you started out politically and how your views have changed over the years?
Sure. Well, let's see. I was raised by the left. I was raised in a very, very liberal family. Tons of Obama signs on their lawns in the last couple of elections. I'm the only conservative in the family line. And I became a conservative, golly, it's approaching 30 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. And so, bit of a schism. And what really happened for me is I left liberalism because of control. I saw that we constantly wanted to control people's lives. I'll get into that in a bit. But the reason I got politically involved lately, and the reason I formed the Party of Choice, the reason we did, is because we saw three big problems for conservatives. We saw that they felt hopeless. We were seeing it, because we go to Tea Party meetings and Republican meetings and all this. We were very active. And we saw this hopelessness in three big ways. Number one, they seemed hopelessly divided, unable to work and speak as one. Mm-hmm. And they were frustrated about it. They didn't like it. And number two, they seemed hopelessly outnumbered. They felt hopelessly outnumbered, especially with recent demographic shifts. And number three, they felt hopelessly unheard, especially by young people and independents. They felt like there's this wall there. We can't break through. They won't listen. They tune us out instantly the second they hear what we are. And so we formed the Party of Choice to fix all that with choice.
Okay. Well, and the choices are what it comes down to. Explain to me the concept of choice, the way that you guys are really using it.
Sure. Well, we felt that it was necessary to take that word back from the left. They kind of stole it from us because, as you said earlier, they're not about choices at all.
Right.
The reason that we use the word choice, there's two of them. Freedom and liberty are wonderful words, and we encourage people to use them. But liberty sounds old-fashioned. It doesn't connect, especially with young people. They think of horses and buggies or powdered wigs and knickers.
Muskets.
Okay. I kind of like muskets. They're kind of cool. Yeah.
And they're great. But it just doesn't resonate with youth in particular. As far as freedom's kind of a fuzzy word. People don't always know when their freedoms are being taken away because it can happen gradually over time. But the word choice resonates with people immediately because they know the instant that a choice is taken away.
Right.
And all of those words mean the same thing. It's just that choice is a really positive message and it resonates with people now.
I like that. I've started to incorporate, once you told me about that, I've started to incorporate that into my everyday language. And it's amazing. It kind of changes how you think about an issue. Even though it does mean exactly the same thing, it's helping to craft that message in a way that actually reaches people. So how, you formed the Party of Choice to address this hopelessness. Mm-hmm. How are you actually going about, what's the boots on the ground piece of this? How do you actually do that?
Right now, we just speak a lot.
Okay.
we go and we speak to a lot of groups. We are making a lot of ads that are on the internet, and people really seem to like those. And what we're trying to do, the big thing we do is we try to explain to people in each one of those areas that I mentioned, where the problem comes from. and how they can fix it.
Okay.
And each time we get the same result, people are like, oh my gosh, I never looked at it that way before. And it's kind of because, well, I come from the left. I actually come from leftist academia, so I was like trained to beat you. So.
Oh, wow.
Right. So, well, like for instance, unity. Okay, we feel hopelessly divided. Why are we divided? All right. And two big reasons. We're trying to unite around the wrong thing, and we divide over the wrong things. And I look at it like this. When you're trying to unite the right, the last thing you want to do, the first thing we do, but the last thing you want to do is we look at each other. We look at the right and say, okay, how can everybody there agree with me?
Right.
Or how can we all compromise and be miserable?
Right.
And they're making a big mistake. The first place you look is the left. And so you've got to look at the left and say, what makes them different from all of us? What do they cherish that makes them different from all of us? Did you ever see the movie Independence Day?
Yes.
Okay. When the aliens come down to Earth and they start, wreaking havoc everywhere and destroying, they come to an Earth that's all splintered into factions all over the planet, all kinds of warring factions and nations and so forth. But when the aliens come, what immediately happens to all that?
It goes away. You
Right.
unite against a common enemy.
Exactly. What are the aliens dedicated to in the movie?
Annihilating humanity.
Exactly. And what do we immediately unite around is the opposite of that, which is our survival. The left is united around one thing, and I can tell you this as a former leftist. Every piece of legislation, everything they talk about, I got to be honest, it all comes down to one thing: collective control of the individual. Mm-hmm. What's the opposite of that? Individual liberty.
Right.
Right. That's what we're supposed to be uniting around. But instead, we divide around how to protect individual liberty, like with foreign policy or domestic policy, right? We'll divide over, should we be more or less interventionist? Should we be more? And you'll see, Rand Paul duking it out with Ted Cruz and this kind of stuff. And they have great debates, and they're great. But to both of them, I got news for them. Just so you know, over on the other side, they don't even cherish the individual liberty you're debating how to protect.
Right.
Okay, they want to control you. We debate over how to win politically for individual liberty, how
Tactics.
to advance it.
Yeah.
Do we have a more moderate candidate or a more conservative one? And we debate on when to apply it on issues like abortion.
Right.
So we're dividing over how to protect individual liberty, how to advance it, and when to apply it, and we're forgetting that we're united around it.
We're actually united around individual liberty as a concept, as a basis.
Because we forget looking at the other side and see what unites them.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, one of the criticisms that I hear, and let me throw this out there, is that those who are not part of the Tea Party, those who are not part of the conservative wing of the Republican Party, and those are the people that I count myself as one. Those are the people who are the boots on the ground, the grassroots, the base. Say that anybody who is anywhere further to the left of them is part of that control conspiracy.
Right.
So that's what I hear over and over again, regardless of whether they have an R or a D. And I say that, personally, I say that all the time. And, it's important to remember that a statist is a statist is a statist.
Right.
But at times that label does become very important, especially when you're heading into a general election. So can you help me reconcile these two psychotic parts of my brain?
I'm going to have to charge you incredible sums of money, but sure. Look, first of all, you're not wrong. Okay, there are statist elements of the right, of course. And that's where we debate, should we have more or less NSA, and how much government do we need to protect the freedoms of each other. See, we in the Party of Choice, we support every individual choice that doesn't take away someone else's choice.
Right.
Okay. For instance, if I steal that woman's purse, my choice takes away her choice of what to do with her money. If I kill that guy, my choice takes away his choice of what to do with his life. If my company pours sewage in the river, our choice takes away the choice of people downstream to have clean water. All right? That's why we have laws. Laws are geared to protect one choice from taking away another. You need government to enforce laws. And the big disagreement comes in how much government do we need? And by the way, I'm very Tea Party. Okay, I'm a Republitarian, but so I would obviously go much toward the less. But I always try to keep in mind that those people on the right who would do more government than I do, I don't want to immediately assume they've thrown out individual liberty. They're probably just going further using government to protect it than I would. And we can discuss that if I don't immediately take an approach of, you're the other side.
If you don't immediately put them on the defensive. Well, when we come back, let's talk about how we can keep from putting people on the defensive, keep from dividing ourselves up into these tiny little camps so that we are hopelessly divided. Let's try to find a way, and I hope you'll help educate me on how to do that. Welcome back. This is Kris Cook, and you are listening to Grassroots Radio. And we have Cori and Andy Pate. Did I get that? Okay. It's going to give me some chance to mess that up, because I'm sure that I will. If you have questions for these guys, they're the founders of the Party of Choice. And I love the way you've analyzed and broken down, some of these issues that we have with communicating with young people, communicating with independents, and communicating within our own party with people who have those divergent viewpoints. So if you have any questions for them, please give us a call, 303-477-5600. We'd love to hear from you. So before we went to break, we were talking about how to communicate with others within the right. I mean, we've got this schism, we've got this problem that we have to address. What do you think, Cori, is the way that we go about doing that? How do we approach this?
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got a few things that we've been working on, and one of them is a strategy called 24. What I have personally seen is that a lot of times we get really excited about a candidate, and so we promote them during the last few months of the election cycle. And that candidate may or may not win, but that's because we haven't necessarily influenced the setting or our neighbors, our friends, our family, to understand where that candidate is coming from and changing hearts and minds so that they will actually go out and vote for that candidate. So what we are doing with the Party of Choice is we are really trying to focus on the 20 months, taking a long view of the election cycle and working to move the needle of public opinion further to the right during that 20 months so that we can start to nominate more and more conservative candidates.
I like that. I talk about the Overton window every once in a while, and are you familiar with that concept? It's moving that needle of public opinion. The Overton window is that window of policy that is acceptable to the largest number of people who are within the society. And if you can, the left has continued to move that window left and left and left. If we can move that back to the right, then we have that opportunity. It's exactly what you're talking about. We have that opportunity to get those Tea Party candidates into office, but we have to do the work ahead of time, is what you're saying.
Right, in between. And we need to do it on a large scale as well as a small scale. So, for instance, we've designed a lot of 30-second ads that reframe debates and big issues so that it makes the right, those of us on the right, the good guys, because we're giving them choices, and the people on the left, the bad guys, because they're taking choices away.
That's beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful. So you do this. You do this in your seminars. You do. Give these seminars. You guys are also going to be at the Western Conservative Summit.
Right.
You're going to have a table there.
We will.
We need to push you to have a class. I mean, honestly, this is exactly the kind of thing I think the right needs to hear, because they're not listening to each other.
Well, they think that they can't. They think that they are too far apart and that they're never going to find a way to agree. But what's really neat is that when we do our Unite the Right classes or our Choice Words That Win workshop, we have people from all different backgrounds. We have libertarians, we have Tea Party, we have Christian right and establishment Republicans. And by the end of the 3 or 4 hour seminar, they're best buddies. I mean, it's so funny. They don't want to leave. They're just chit-chatting and slapping each other in the back and exchanging contact info.
A big part of that is because we don't just show them with ads. We show how we can. You're going to have to move the needle of public opinion 2 ways, as a movement with ads, right?
Right.
But also one-on-one and how you move people. And when they feel so helpless, when you give them the tactics to very quickly break down that wall that is between you and young people or independents, and you see how you can break through and win them over very quickly, they all get excited together.
Right.
And they draw together in that. And at the same time, you've already put them through a section where they've learned, hey, this is what we're united around. We all treasure individual liberty. We disagree on how to protect it or advance it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and going back to what you were saying earlier about uniting around that common enemy, basically uniting around the fact that our individual liberties, no matter how you think they ought to be, prosecuted, or however you think those look, if somebody's trying to destroy that, we need to take them out. I mean, that's more or less, I spent about a half an hour on that earlier in this show, because I want to see Hickenlooper defeated. I want to see Udall defeated. This is every single action that I am taking between now and November is about that. And so trying to get people to unite around this, being persuasive and crafting that message,
Well, yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so many ways. For instance, libertarians, how do we get them in here? So often we say, jump on our bus. Well, you know what? Maybe we should say, why don't you jump up front and help us drive? Okay, why don't we listen to your ideas? Here's the big thing. We don't have as much disagreements in our foundational beliefs on the right. And I tell you this as a former leftist, you really don't. You think you're apart, you're not nearly as far apart as you are. And people will scream and say, yes, we are. No, I'm telling you as a former leftist, you're very close. The problem is we have fallen into valuing people only if they agree with us.
Right.
We hang with people who agree with us. We look, if I only value people who agree with me, then I don't really value people. I just value agreement with me. And if I only value agreement with me, then the only one I value is me. Right. And that's the mindset of the left, and we've allowed it to infect the right, and that's what's tearing us apart. That
is an excellent point. Well, and it, I hate to say this, but it becomes a very childish way of looking at the world. It is really what it is. It's just it's not a mature recognizing reality. And I always think of conservatives, we get reality. We understand how economies actually work. We understand about people breaking the laws and stuff like that.
Well, and I think that's part of the reason we get so passionate, because we see the reality of what's happening to our country that we love. And so we panic and we get emotional about it, and sometimes we forget to take a step back and listen to the person who doesn't agree with us completely and find out why they may disagree with us, but then find that area of common agreement.
Find that area of principle where we actually do overlap, right, and where we can move forward.
It's fun when we film our ads, we have people from all across the spectrum in the ads.
Yeah.
And they have such a fun time. By the end of filming the ads, they are lifelong friends. It's great. Just get them together and start hashing it out and start saying, but it all begins with what unites us and what unites the other side. Focus on that first, and you'll be shocked at how much you can listen to each other and the other stuff.
Boy, that'd be something. I hope Ryan Call is listening to this. Have you had anybody from the establishment side of this reach out to you to say we need this kind of training?
Actually, Ryan played our ad at one of the major assemblies.
Did he?
That's fabulous. We've had a ton of people from both the establishment and the Tea Party.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. But that's encouraging to me. That is very, very encouraging to me to hear that we're not voices in the wilderness. So.
Not at all.
All right. So where can people find you, first of all? Let's start there.
They can find us. Our website is ThePartyOfChoice.com. We're also on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, and
all over.
YouTube, sorry.
Okay.
You can find all of those links on our website. That's probably the fastest way to find them.
Okay, so partyofchoice.com. I will definitely be putting is it .com or .org?
.com, and it's ThePartyOfChoice.com.
That's why I'm not finding it.
Yeah, I couldn't spell org, so we had to go with com.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's too. There's
I tried for hours.
So you never want to put that vowel at the beginning. It just messes you all up.
Yeah.
Okay, so thepartyofchoice.com.
Right.
And you've got all of your information. You also have your YouTube ads. How many of these ads do you have?
I think we have 4 or 5 now. And then we also have some short instructional videos called Choice Words That Win that break down issues. We started with the issue of abortion because that's an area where a lot of people were coming to us saying, I know what I believe, but I don't know how to explain it very well.
We break it into 4 parts. Kind of fun because there are pro-choice and pro-life Republicans. I'm pro-life. And they actually like each other a lot more after the videos.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even though I do present my view. So.
Such a divisive issue to be able to find common ground in that. Okay, you guys are incredibly talented then. This is really, I just love this concept. I just love this concept. And this is something that I am absolutely dedicated to seeing. I grew up in the 80s. You guys are both younger than me, I think. Okay, Andy's
I'm
shaking
a
his
child
head.
Of the 80s too, so.
I'm 51.
Oh my gosh. You'd never know it. Truly, you'd never know it. So, you know, I mean,
Had
we grew
a lot
up.
of work done.
We grew up in the 80s. We grew up with Reagan. We grew up with the Big Tent Party. And, you know, that having that kind of a background and understanding that this is possible and having watched us split apart as we have just makes me long for bringing that back to that big tent. So thank you guys so much for having this. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having us.
Love to have you here, and I'd love to have you back as we explore some of these issues as we go through election season. I think it'd be very, very helpful if you're willing.